stand for the pledge, please. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can we do introductions, please?
Kathy Notel, Assistant District Clerk.
Mary Vitaliata, Assistant Superintendent of Elementary Education.
Emery Moran Caliendo, Assistant Superintendent for Finance and Facilities.
Stephanie Byrne, Board Trustee.
David Caston, Board Trustee.
Diana Acampora, Board Trustee.
Jack Feldman, Counsel to the Board of Education.
Kelly Fallon, Superintendent of Schools.
Eric Geringswald, Board President.
Betty DiSabato, Board Vice President.
Adam Kleinberg, Board Trustee.
John O'Farrell, Assistant Superintendent for Secondary Education.
Patrick Harrigan, Deputy Superintendent.
Okay, at this point I'd like to turn it over to Ms. Moran Caliendo.
Thank you very much. Here with us tonight is Mr. Peter Rodriguez, who is a partner with our external audit firm, Cullen and Danowski, who's going to present our external audit report to the board for 2014-15.
Right, June 30, 2015. Good evening, everybody. Thanks for having me here. So, with the external auditors, everybody knows that our job is to audit the financial statements, and we employ other auditors, and we look at the vouchers, internal auditors, we look at your system, like your controls, based on your direction, the audit committee's direction, and we do the financial statement. So we finished that up this year. These statements have been issued now. You have the final copies. These are the final copies. Okay, so again, the purpose of the external audit is required by SED. The objective is to express an opinion on the financial statements. Okay, the opinion that you read in the financial statements, for the reader, looks at that opinion, it gives them how much they can rely on these different types of opinions. Okay, these statements are used by SED, obviously, and the State Controller's Office to monitor your financial, health. They're used by Moody's to give you bond ratings, used by management, they're available for the general public. So you can read through these and make an assessment as to what the district's, financial health might be by looking through the numbers. Reading the opinion means you can rely on those numbers. Okay. So we follow our general accepted auditing standards that are put out by the SCPA. That's the people that guide us as to how to do an audit. And basically what an audit is you do your books, you prepare the information for your financial statements. We audit that information. We have to gather enough information, evidence that supports the numbers in your financial statements, and the disclosures in the financial statements. And also making sure that all the required disclosures are part of that. So we'll do things like look through the board minutes. The board makes actions during the year that could affect financial statements, borrowings, contracts that they issue, things of that nature. We look at, obviously, the areas that are obvious as the payroll area. We're looking to see employees are paid in accordance with their contract, that their vendors are being paid, that there's purchase orders that are approved, there's invoices, things. That's all audit evidence. We need to gather as much evidence as we feel necessary, is based on our professional judgment, enough evidence that we can then come to a conclusion we can issue an opinion on the financial statements. So we've done that, and what we've issued is we've issued an unmodified opinion. That's what's known as the clean opinion. Everything is fairly stated. There's no material misstatements in the financial statements. The opinion will talk about your financial condition. That's where you stood on June 30th, 2015. That your assets, liabilities, and fund balance are fairly stated. So that's the financial position. And then change in financial position is what happened over the 12-month period. Revenues and expenditures from July 1st, 2014 through June 30th, 2015. So the opinion will read fairly stated, free of material misstatements, and that the statements are prepared in accordance with general set of accounting principles. So they have all the proper disclosures and accounting numbers that belong in financial statements for government. So that's a clean opinion. Also in the report, we have to follow government auditing standards, and these are separate standards. They're above and beyond our professional standards because you're a government. The federal government requires certain other audit procedures. They have to do with internal controls over financial reporting and compliance with laws and regulations. So we do look at your internal controls as we're designing our audit program. We're not looking at internal controls to give you an opinion on the internal controls. We're using it as a tool to help us decide and determine if there's risk in a particular area. If you have a lack of control, we may test more in that area. But as we go through the controls, if we come up with a control deficiency where we see a weakness and it turns out to be something that we consider, based on our judgment, material, we've reported in that report to the government. Your report says that there were no material weaknesses noted during the audit, and also there were no instances of non-compliance. So those are the three reports that you have, really. One's an opinion, which is on the financial statements, it's a clean opinion. The other two are reports, but they do state that no material weaknesses were found or also non-compliance. So it was a good audit. You know, we have a management which is one minor comment in it, so you don't have the big management letter, not a lot of recommendations for us. Everything was very smooth. Questions?
A couple.
Sure.
So I've not sat in this position before.
Okay.
I've sat in the audience before, so it's a little different. So I apologize if these are simple questions, but something I didn't understand. I was looking specifically on page 8 of the report, and underneath where it sets forth a little section with the numbers, and it says the change in net position, and we have a profit of 15 million as opposed to a loss the prior year of 10 million.
Right.
Can you explain that to me, what the difference is?
It's a little deeper explanation than, than that. What you have in these financial statements, you have two sets of financial statements. Okay, pretty unique it's unique, not unique for government, but unique in general. You have financial statements which are known as the fund financial statements, your general fund, school lunch, special aid. The accounting method that's used for those is the modified accrual basis of accounting. And what that means is the only assets that are recognized are short-term assets, cash, receivables, things that will be turned to cash within a short, 90 days. And your liabilities are your short-term liabilities. And that's your general fund. What you're looking at there is the full accrual basis financial statements, two whole separate things. And that full accrual basis financial statements includes all your assets and all your liabilities. So it includes things like, it includes your land, building, and equipment with depreciation deductions. It includes all your debt that's going to be payable, all your bonds payable, all your compensated absence, sick day banks, everything. Your obligation for health benefits to retirees, there's an actual calculation for that goes into that statement. Pretty convoluted. And now for this year, the new GASB 68 and 71 are requiring districts to record their proportionate share of the pension asset or liability. Okay, so just to put a little flavor into that, PRS is overfunded. They're overfunded by $10 billion. Okay, your share of that overfunded amount is $68 million. That's why you see a big profit in that particular financial. You've got to remember you're looking at the full accrual basis financial statements, and you have an asset there of $68 million that's adding to your net position and adding to your profit. On that page, if you look at the second
That
paragraph,
asset's out of our control.
well, it's out of your control, and I can't comment on why it's an asset because GASB says it is.
I'm just trying to understand it.
And I've had a lot of commentary with different audit committees, and if you have an asset, you would think you have rights to that asset, and you can access that asset. Not the case. To me, I think I would have thought it'd be more important as a disclosure in the financial statements. It is good to know that you're participating in a pension plan that's overfunded, as compared to maybe another plan that's 50% underfunded. But I think the disclosure would be more what do you call it? Maybe I'll run for GASB to be going to the GASB board next year. They'll find me right away. So what I'm going to suggest that you have here is there's two key terms in this financial statement that you have to be aware of. Fund balance. Anytime you see the word fund balance, you're talking about the funds, the modified accrual, what you would use to monitor the health of the district, what you would use to figure out how much fund balance you have to use for next year's budget, things like reserves, things of that nature. If you see the word net position, which is what you see on this page 8, net position is the full accrual basis, which has the pension assets, the OPEB obligation, which is the other post-fund benefits. They'll have depreciation. How you use that statement? I mean, the statement made sense up until, to me, it did make sense up until the inclusion of the pension. I just don't see that as an asset. But, you know, you would look at your, and if you look at that, you have an unrestricted deficit. As long as your unrestricted deficit is less than your OPEB obligation, that's an unfunded liability. So if I have, I'll make an example of, if I have an $80 million liability for my health benefits to retirees, and you haven't put any money aside for that, and you have a deficit of $70 million, you're in good shape. Because that means you have all your other liabilities funded and an extra $10 million. Now with the pension stuff, it looks better than it really is. So, you know, it's kind of crazy. I don't know if I answered your question.
No, you did. I need to think and watch the videotape again, but I get it.
Just watch the two terms, then you know, and you'll see different statements in there with, you look at the balance sheet for the general fund, you see accounts payable, pension, you know, the pension. You look at it for the gas and credit, you see all the other liabilities.
Okay.
Long-winded tonight.
I had two other questions,
Sure.
but I don't know if anyone else has any. Another question was on page 12.
Okay?
And it's just the last thing, and again, I didn't have an opportunity to put these questions in writing for anyone in the district, because just got this a couple days ago. The closing unassigned fund balance?
Yes,
And it says it's 4%, and it's at the 4% statutory limit.
correct.
Emery was kind enough to give me a little explanation about this right when I took office, but I just wanted to know, is that a recommended practice? The 4%?
It's a recommended practice, and it's a, you know, real property tax law limits the amount that a district can hold in fund balance, you know, unassigned, meaning it's not set aside for any particular purpose. So when you set money aside for, in a retirement contribution reserve, it's set aside for that purpose. Well, you know, you have 4 or 5 different reserves. It's being set aside for that. You give money back to the taxpayers to offset the next year that's being set aside. So unassigned means I have this fund balance and I don't have it for any particular purpose. And you are limited to 4%, you write it to 4%. Most districts try and stay at the 4%. It used to be 2% about 6, 7 years ago, 8 years ago, whatever it was. Could be more, time goes so fast. But 2% is a very small number. So this is something that you can, the board can use at their discretion, you know, for emergency, something that's not in the budget, something that comes up that wasn't anticipated. And 4% is, I think, healthy and should, in most districts, strive to attain that 4%.
It's a good financial practice, is my understanding, for districts to maintain that 4%, is that correct?
Sure, yes.
My last question is just going through this, seemed like we're in good shape. I'm wondering though, if there are any things that need improvement? In other words, I know there are certain limitations on what you do, and I think you don't get into internal controls. It's not that type of audit, but it's...
Like I said, we look at the controls to help us design an audit program. We do, if we could come across something that's a deficiency, that we decide we don't have that, okay, we're not hired to look at your controls and audit your controls and do an in-depth study of the
Right.
controls. That would be an internal audit function based on, you know, if you wanted them to look at payroll as an example, they would do an in-depth study of that, that's an internal function.
I just want to make sure I'm not missing anything. There's no recommendations in here.
No,
Okay.
no, in here, it is, these are your numbers,
Mhm.
the disclosures, and the opinions, and the reports, and this is for you to look at, and, you know, I had a district that had, that said, oh, great, we got an unmodified opinion, so we're really financially healthy. It's not the case. It doesn't have to be the case. You can have an unmodified opinion and be in terrible shape, because what the reader says is, I can now rely on these numbers. These numbers look terrible, but I can rely on them. That's not your case. So the point is, the unmodified opinion doesn't mean a district that, we have a district that has a, like a $14 million deficit this year. They'll receive an unmodified opinion. When you read the statement, you say, ooh, pretty bad. So you do have to look at the statement, what's in there, there's all the numbers, you can rely on them, come to your own conclusion.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you very much.
And that was a challenge for me, you know, years ago, was, you know, understanding the language of the report, because the language doesn't come out and say, this is a good report, everything is great, you know, Half Hollow Hills is managed wonderfully. It says, there are no problems and nothing that we could find that's an issue, which basically is saying the same thing.
Well, and in the internal control report, there you don't have any, you know, you read through that and you see there's no material weakness in your controls, that gives you some comfort, that's good. No incident of non-compliance, that's good. If you look at the management, you see one comment, you know, one recommendation, that's good. You know, it's not 15 things in the management of the material weakness, that's all well and good. The opinion just says that the numbers are fairly stated, you can rely on them, there's no material misstatements, but you still have to dig into the thing, into the numbers and make your own conclusion. Moody's will do the same thing. They'll get a report that says, they're unmodified opinion, and they'll give that entity a B+ rating, or BB, whatever it is, because the numbers aren't good. The numbers, you have a good bond rating. The borrowing cans, I think, are 1.16% or some crazy number. It's almost free. So, you learn as you go along, but that's what this is. I just want to bring it up because I was misunderstanding what an unmodified opinion means. Okay?
So when you put those two together, meaning the experts calculating what the interest rate is on our bonds, so they're talking about our financial health.
They're looking at your financial health and saying
Correct.
that the likelihood of repayment is very, very strong.
Right.
You know, and it generally isn't government, but that doesn't mean that everybody has the same rating that you have. It can be downplayed depending on how much they have in fund balance and, you know, what kind of, if there's a lot of material weakness, that can hurt a rating too.
Right. So maintaining that 4% fund balance also helps us with respect to our financial health and our
Sure,
borrowing.
that helps with the reserves, helps with keeping that equity, you know, times have gotten tough over the last couple of years, you know, with the tax cap, and this is what this money was for. Now you're starting to use it each year. You know, you've made this small surplus, I think it was $600,000 surplus this year, so, you know, you want to get to the point where, I think anyway, districts are trying to get to the point where they break even. They make a little, lose a little, you know, and maintain a steady flow, and rely on revenue to support their expenditures, rather than relying on revenue and a big chunk of equity. So the districts that relied on the equity and showed, you know, large deficits during the year, they're shrinking.
That disappears.
It disappears real fast, faster than you'd like to think, and what ends up happening is then, you know, things like the tax cap is what, 0.7%, some minor number. That happens at the wrong time, and then the next thing you know, they're cutting programs and they're trying to make ends meet.
That's when they cut teachers and all that kind of stuff.
And that's when you end up with a fund balance of, was it 15,000 that one of the districts out east has now or something?
I don't think it's that much, I'm not sure.
Oh, it's not that much.
I don't know.
I'm overestimating.
But yeah, but it's happening in different pockets. You know, it just depends on, a lot of districts maintain programs and use fund balance to give back and lost it. And then when the next year comes around, they don't have the fund balance to give back, so they have to start to cut the programs and they wind the fund balance down. So that's dangerous to do, obviously. If you can maintain the, you know, your reserves where they are, you use them a little bit, but at a minimum, always maintain the 4%. Because that's unassigned. It's not for a particular thing.
So it speaks to the work that Anne Marie and her team are doing in terms of helping us manage the finances of the district, and it's just great to see that, you know, the consistency. You know, I've been on the board for 7 years, and in 7 years, we've been very consistent, and we've done a great job. We had a transition from another business official to Anne Marie, and to be quite honest, our reports got even better when Anne Marie had joined Half Hollow Hills, so it's
This is
just.
a very good foundation I came into, so, yeah,
Understood,
it's really,
but
it's the accumulation of all the good decisions and conservative budgeting that leads to this point.
yeah, so again, just
Thank
publicly, I just want to make sure I'm clear in that I think you're doing a great job, you're helping us manage the money well, and every indicator outside of the district is confirming that you're managing the money well, which is better than us saying you're doing a good job. It's better to have the external people saying you're doing a good job, so.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so that's my presentation. Any other questions?
Thank you.
You guys will be making a resolution tonight to accept the report. So tomorrow morning, we're all set to go. We'll be filing the reports with the State Education Department and with the Controller's Office. We do it electronically, and we're going to be copying it. You'll have PDFs if you need PDF for that. And the only thing I'll add is, you know, again, you're just looking at these for the first time, you know, we work for the Board of Education. If anybody has any questions at any other time during the year, I get to see you once a year. Anything comes up, you should go through that. I'm always available. Give me a call. We'll come down here, whatever you need. Okay?
Thank you very much.
Okay, good. Thanks.
Kathy, do we have any comments from visitors on the presentation?
Good night.
Just hold on one second. Peter, just want to see if there's a
Just in case there's a question.
question on the presentation.
Jill, any comments on that, questions on the presentation?
Well, I haven't really had an opportunity to look at the report, because I just saw it when I came here, because it was listed as a goals meeting still on the website, so I really wasn't even sure that we were having this presentation. So I'll probably ask more questions at a different meeting, but the surplus was 11.5 million?
No, what a surplus is the amount that your revenues exceed your expenditures.
Yes,
Was 600,000.
about
600,000.
600,000,
So the district brought in 600,000, I'm using a round number.
yes.
$600,000 more than they spent.
And the encumbrances under budget?
Well, there were expenditures and encumbrances on the budget, yes.
And that totals
That was 11 million.
11.5 million, right? Okay. And I was at the audit committee meeting, and there was something said about the interest for the clubs that weren't going back to the clubs. How is that going to get corrected?
I think the board has to do something to do that. You know, the interest, you're not earning a ton of interest nowadays in the general fund, let alone at the club level. There should be some policy and mechanism to take whatever interest you have and allocate it back to the student clubs. Right now, it's just sitting in an account that's called interest. So you can, through policy, you can decide to put the interest to student council, or you can decide to allocate to all the clubs. With the amount of interest you have, I'm thinking student council makes more sense, because you're going to be putting 3 cents, 8 cents in some of the smaller clubs. It's too minor. But come up with the policy, and then have the central treasurers allocated, because it's in the bank account. It's just not in the student account balances. And it's not a material number, but it should be done annually.
And just to clarify, it's not in the general fund, it's in the extracurricular activity fund,
Okay,
completely different fund.
and the reality is, you know, as I think what I just heard, we're talking about, 8 cents or 20 cents.
If you
as
start to
opposed
allocate to each club, it's going to be
$200.
immaterial, it's not going to make any sense.
Right.
You know, if it was at the age you get 17% interest, maybe it makes sense to give each club their share.
Right,
But it doesn't make any sense now.
But interest on the savings account is negligible in these things. Okay. Thank you, great. So I'd like to ask for a motion to adopt the external audit report.
Motion.
Second?
Well, to accept it.
To accept it, I'm sorry, to accept the report. Do we have any comments, questions? All those in favor? Great. So then at this point in time, we will go into our district goals discussion. Great. So at this time, we'll turn it over to Ray Jorgensen.
Thanks.
Thank you, Ray.
This is very simple, and I hope you enjoy it. My name's Ray, and you'll get to know more about me in a few moments. But right now, would you please go stand next to someone you're not sitting next to? And you can play or not count.
Ray, I was gonna ask you, is this for the loan or is this for the school board?
This is school board and executive team.
All right, I'm gonna watch them.
You're
Okay.
probably
I'll make sure they do it right.
All right, David.
All right.
You got the first one is to make sure that we have real clarity about what are we doing here tonight. You heard words, all right? And the work that I do, as you hear words, they are interpreted through many lenses. We want to make sure that we have a common understanding about the expected outcome. So 90-second chat. What are we doing here tonight? What do we hope to produce by the end of the evening? 90 seconds. Talk to the person next to you. You're on.
Smaller and smaller.
30 seconds.
As a consumer. Should we keep them with maybe less? I think kind of that. Starting there.
10 seconds. Time. So as we begin to build these team learning practices, I'd like you to find a new partner and tell them what your partner said. Find a new partner and tell them what your partner said.
Everybody, all right, maybe one step to the left.
First,
Okay, I got it.
Right?
Perfect. And this one a little short, about a minute and 15. 30 seconds to go. 30. Make sure the other person speaks. Ten seconds. Time. Let's feed back to the chair. Your job is very simple. Yes. Okay. Or no, that's not what I meant. I meant this. Okay. So it is very interesting how I did this. Actually, this was a Long Island gig. I had about 25 people in an exec meeting. The CEO said, "This is why we're here today," and blah 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 blah. Had them pair up and say, "Feedback to the boss what you heard." One pair had it. And it's not that you're not listening or your minds aren't brilliant, because obviously you guys are really good. I mean, I was told how great this board is. I didn't come here thinking you needed help. I came here to enhance already good practice. I think that's my life anyway. And all I heard from the executive team is the high quality board. So I'm very grateful to be here, and this is about enhancing good board practice and good team learning as a board and the executive team. So, would you guys mind starting feedback to him? What do you think we're doing here tonight?
You want me to say what the purpose
What,
is?
yeah, what you guys talked about as the purpose for the evening tonight, yes.
So we were just saying what the other people told us.
Yes, that's exactly right. What did they tell you?
Oh, so not my own opinion about.
Oh, your
what
own
this is.
opinion would be lovely, but we'd like to know what they said too.
My opinion is I'd like to speak with the board about their goals and share mine, but since I'll play this exercise, Eric indicated that he wants to continue to see us develop our curriculum and give our kids what they need to succeed, and he wanted to see us continue to give our administrators everything they need in order to implement that and to what's best for the district. And John had indicated he wants to see us as a board set priorities. We have goals for 5 to 10 years down the road, and how we can set, what we can take action in order to help us meet those goals.
Thank you very much. Really appreciate the succinctness of that too. Brother, is that what you wanted?
It sounds, yeah.
So that's the key, is to make sure we're all on the same page moving forward. How about this team? What'd you guys hear?
We were, in my initial conversation, we talked about Stephanie being new to the role, but not new to the community or to the district, and having some input to provide to the process, some of those pieces as well, and as well as what she's seen thus far. And David was kind of bringing it back to kind of make sure we're talking about kids.
Excellent. I love that. On board?
Yep.
Nice. Ladies.
David, we were speaking about remaining focused on students and the best interest of a healthy community and an educational experience for students. Diana spoke of the priorities of the district and really the direction moving forward to meet those priorities.
On the nosy? Good deal. Ladies, something different?
I think very similar, and speaking with Diana was really talking about getting input from our board members regarding the direction moving forward from this year, and from the acceptance that we shared with me, what has been shared with her, which is very similar to what
And this entire thing obviously is about making sure we are on the same page moving forward so that we can bring our goals forward as we think about this, or things that we think of as priorities. So the interest tonight is to create priorities, not so much goals, so that your CEO and team can shape those priorities into goals that you then can decide you like or don't like. Yep, that's what I meant. No, that's not what I want. The experience I've had with boards, if we try and set goals as a community this big, we'll be wordsmithing until 2 in the morning. So much more interested in making sure your priorities, the things you care about, are in the field moving forward. I think that's absolutely critical. All right, let's get to know me and you just a little bit better. So go find someone you haven't stood next to. There you go. Very nice. This is simple. So this will allow you to notice there was no introduction of me, and that's on purpose. You get a chance to do that in a moment. Before you do that, quick introduction of self. So tell the person next to you, what is something about you that most people don't know? Maybe you like to jump out of airplanes on the weekend, maybe you're going to be on Dancing with the Stars, I don't know. Something about you that most people don't know. And you have only 2 minutes for this, so 1 minute each. Ready, set, go. 1 minute each. Something about you that most people
Emery, if you had come sooner, they would have fit you into that.
Would you like to play? Jump right in. It will be a threesome. Play with a twosome there, that's just fine. 60 seconds. Great.
I was just saying, I think we've been through these a couple of times. That's what happens when you do it after a while.
10 seconds.
No, get better.
Time. So let me invite you to do this. Come in here in the center with me and make a little circle. So bring your partner in here with me and make a little circle with me. Stay by your partner.
It's because Paul is.
I'm in the next two.
Watch that wire so you don't hurt yourself there. I'll try and move it out of the way. Thank you, Garland. So, come on. I'm going down next way, we'll go in there, work this a little better. So this is stand next to your partner. So, very quickly, swing it in a circle, introduce your partner, but pretty fast. I don't want you to go, this is my friend, he likes long walks on the beach, and I don't want to hear that. Okay, just the one thing about him that most people don't know. So this is my friend so-and-so, this is something about him most people don't know. You mind starting?
Absolutely. This is Anna Kleinberg, and he's a musician.
Outstanding, what do you play?
Guitar and bass.
Me too. Hit the pound, don't leave me hanging.
This was a technique. This is my partner Diana. She is an excellent athlete. She is a competitive skier and softball and lots of other sports. And she's a great athlete.
That's fantastic, thank you. You mind?
This is my partner Patrick, and he is the only one in his family that is not a fireman or a police officer.
Oh, fascinating, thank you, thank you.
This is Betty, and you know, rather seriously, Betty mentioned to me that she's got a lot going on right now, a stressful family, but is really committed maybe even more so, to this process and to serving of children in this community, so.
Yeah, this is truly about, this looks like, if Robert Greenleaf could come here and be with us, it looks like servant leadership. Thank you, please.
This is Mary, and Mary loves spending time outdoors in mountain climates and skiing and hiking and all kinds of stuff.
Fantastic.
This is my friend Eric, and Eric is a certified scuba diver.
That's awesome. You get to go much?
Not as much as I'd like.
I really would love to do that.
And this is my partner Kelly, and Kelly is in a new role in her life right now with her 2 children being away at school, and she's able to enjoy being here at work.
She's not enjoying that.
I love work. That's great, thank you. Please tell me.
And this is my partner Stephanie, and over the summer, decided to develop a new hobby, and that is she's been painting, and she has actually 2 paintings that are complete.
I admire that so deeply, sir.
This is David, and David would much rather play sports and be active than watch them, although when he does watch them, he watches them for the whole sport and not for fantasy leagues or statistics or anything like that.
Cool.
My friend John is a surfer.
Mr. Cassett, know that.
I didn't know that.
Are we Metsies here or Yankees? Who are we here? Happy with the Mets where they are? No, I'm not happy.
Everybody's a Mets fan today.
Go grab a new partner, somebody you haven't been with. Last activity for this section. There you go, there you go. There you go. So, something about developing very quick professional relationships, even in environments where I don't know you. I'm learning about you, and I'm honored and grateful to be here. But you get a chance now to take a swing at me. What is something you want to know about me? Okay. 1 or 2 questions, no more than that over either, all right? I don't care if it's personal or professional, I'd be happy to answer that. And believe it or not, it's an excellent way for leaders to get to know people that they lead. It at some level creates a certain sense of vulnerability, and I'll talk about that later on. Why does that matter? Because it does, it really does. So, you have only 60 seconds, so don't kill me. 60 seconds, find something out. What do you want to know about me, personally, professionally? Tell the person next to you. 1 or 2 questions.
Put it that way. I'm not sure what the lawyer puts me up there. Everybody else does.
Even though I suspect you may have some similar questions, in order that we don't do that, just give me 1 of the 2 you have, and we'll scoot around. If you still have one when we're done, I'll answer that one. Who'd like to start? Cool.
How did you get into this and dealing with corporations? And
Totally by accident.
Why?
I started, why is a different question.
I had 0 questions, my partner had 2. So.
So what happened was, I was a high school principal for almost 20 years. And I left that position and started to chase a doctorate. And I was hired by a leadership center to do work. So I was doing consultation and facilitation outbound. This is in the mid-90s, 94, I think, 95 school year. Within the first 3 weeks, someone from an insurance company heard me, somebody else, I mean, all these different businesses grabbed onto me. They started to say, could you come talk to us about building teams? That was kind of that was why I did it to begin with, was the job. Why do I do this? And you know who Crystal McAuliffe is? Does that name ring a bell? So she was my friend. And she was a teacher of the year for her state manager and got to be the first teacher female athlete going into space, astronaut. So I got to know her because I was runner-up in the Diocese of Brooklyn for Teacher of the Year, and I was Teacher of the Year for my district in Florida when I moved to Florida. So I got to see her in Washington. Loved her, just thought she was great. Now when it happened, as you remember, it was a very challenging time. And I had all the kids in the high school on the lawn watching it because you could see across the state to the shop. It was just a big day, right? So we all deal with that. I dealt with it. Then I read something in the Times. investigation underway. So Dr. Feynman chased this thing pretty well, and the writing about it's incredible, although we have many more examples of this later on. So you're Adam, right? I'm Ray. Adam, he was an engineer on the project, he would have been interviewed. And only one question Dr. Feynman cared about. They asked him 30 or 40 questions. Only one Dr. Feynman cared about. There was no media back then. They were just you and I chatting. 30 questions, and Feynman's research said, if I ask somebody 35, 40 questions and we're talking, we have a little relationship going on. Here was the question, Adam, as an engineer on this project, that morning, please do not Monday morning quarterback, knowing what you knew that morning. If you had your hand on go, no go, which way do you go? 100% answered the same way, no go. Now, what happened was the culture of we got to get this out there, we got to make this happen, we got to blah, 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 all of that got pushed into the field. And what Dr. Feynman learned was that we can't have a culture that is so pushing in one direction that we can't hear one another. So there was a building of how do we create cultures that actually you can do, this is really a tenet of our work, safely, dangerous space. And I love the questions you asked. These are questions everybody has to be able to ask in a space where it's absolutely safe to ask those questions. So that is the why, and the beginning was just me on the road, and by accident I got picked up. And so now it's been over 20 years I'm on the road. So, and I'm getting really old for this. So we've got another question. Yes, let's just go circular.
Well, one of our questions was, well, what motivates you to continue doing this type of work?
There it is. You know, it is the energy that teams give to the process. Because when the teams begin to do this, they begin to build these spaces to have really necessary conversations about what is it we need to accomplish here, what are we trying to do. And they're very simple protocols that I teach people. You're going to see a couple of them tonight, and they are sustainable practices that in a board meeting, in your meeting, when you're having a meeting in the public, that's what this is. And when you have this meeting in the public, you'll be able to sustain the practices. The biggest one, you already hit on, is the ability to listen. I heard you say that in that. How well am I listening to that particular person? To understand them. Not to argue, not to just, we might argue, we might disagree, but first to listen to understand. So great question.
I asked, where did you learn how to develop questions the way that you did?
Great.
The way that you do.
I think that I'm learning how to develop questions. And people ask me all the time, are you an expert in this work? And I refuse that title. I think I'm introduced as an expert in leadership in a lot of conferences and places. I don't care for that because I actually believe I'm learning how to be a leader. I'm learning how to be a facilitator. So my work, when I started to do this, it was 1977. I went to a conference and the gentleman spoke to us about getting outside of yourself, stepping back from a problem. And I began journaling then. That was my first introduction to that. Then I studied more about, well, what does it mean to really be a leader? Well, how do I enable people? And that was the Robert Greenleaf stuff. And then my chase for the doctorate was between University of South Florida, Tampa, and MIT. And MIT has a Center for Organizational Learning. It is now the Society for Organizational Learning. And that's where I learned the majority of the facilitation skills. I love going there. I miss it. It's almost like going back home, but I can't. I'm on the road. I was slept in a hotel 280 nights last year. So it's a lot of nights on the road.
Wow.
Question, gentlemen.
How many kids do you have?
Oh, Jesus God. Oh, you talking about my kids or the kids I had in high school?
You know, however you define it.
I have 5, and I have 11 grandchildren, and they're like chase them around the country. They're all over the country. Seattle, Rhode Island, Maine, Tampa, and closer to me, just outside Atlanta.
I guess there were 2 questions, but mine was, what is it in your background? I mean, you probably answered this. What is it in your background that makes you such a sought-after facilitator in leadership training?
I don't know. I don't know. I think the people that practice the work, and this is a nice thing about my work, is I don't want anything in terms of validation or credit. And some of the companies that I work for, I can't have anything. It has to be about the leader that I'm supporting or the team that I'm supporting. So I stay away from that kind of look like Ray did thing. It actually troubles me. Well, one of my demons is arrogance. So I have to work on that all the time. So I constantly return to gratefulness. And if I don't, then I start becoming just almost uncontrollable. You know? But again, who I am today is not who I was 30 years ago as a leader. You know, this is a evolutionary process if you choose to learn. There are people who have the same experience 30 years in a row, right? and then they retire. I was lucky that somebody really caught me and said, that is not a way to live, son. So I have been really trying to get better every year. One more. Did you have two or one? Cool. You got another one?
What qualifies you?
Absolutely nothing. I have all those things after my name. I think the only thing that people I don't advertise. Our company has been around now for a long time, but it's all word of mouth. So I think what qualifies me is board member talks to another board member, superintendent talks to another superintendent, assistant superintendent, the chairman. I think that's the whole work has been designed on word of mouth. There's been absolutely no advertising. But I don't ever think of myself as anything more than trying to learn with you. When you struggle with stuff, that's when I'm useful. You know, I work a lot with the military. So the struggles that they're having in overseas right now, I work with the military hospital systems. And standing up a hospital in the midst of gunfire is different than standing up a hospital in the Philippines, which may not be, but that may have gunfire shortly, sorry, in Hawaii. Which hopefully won't have gunfire right now. So that work is really wonderful. And the Surgeon General is my client, that's who I work for. And he's very clear that I want to know what these people, they call them the single digits, the admiral, the senator, what are they thinking? I want to know that. And so these practices are about how do you really hear people's heartfelt thoughts about what it is you're trying to accomplish. Anything left?
I have a question. You spent many, many nights on the road, accrued many, many miles and points and all that good stuff. What do you do to de-stress?
I was raised as a Catholic and I actually tried to become a priest, but I was hijacked. It was another long story. You need to give me bourbon to tell that one. Anyway, I didn't end up there. And currently, I was taught Buddhist practices by a Christian nun, by a Catholic nun. So I do constant, I meditate, mindfulness stuff all the time, trying to keep myself centered. I need a vacation. And my wife and I find our vacation time is going to see the kids. We really don't go anywhere to blow off steam, and we just kind of go see the kids. And that's renewing for me. You know, I can see the grandkids. So I should tell you about Papa's Promise another time. Question? Anyone left?
Yes, no questions.
Anything left? That was real. I'm very grateful for that. Did anything else? You think of anything else before we move forward? Okay. So we did two interesting little protocols when we started this tonight. When you start a meeting, one of the most important things to do is get every voice in the room. It's called a check-in. It's very interesting that, in fact, you have some literature on this about kids, that kids will just sit quietly in classrooms unless somebody's actually provoking them to speak. You know, an introvert like me will not speak in a classroom. You could be the most wonderful teacher in the world, I just won't talk. So first protocol, you said, we're doing X, and I said, what did you hear him say? Voices got right into the room. That does something to break down that initial barrier. The second thing we started to do was use conversation as a method to build relationships. And the reason why that matters is as we build professional relationships together, we become transparent in our thinking and we produce better results. So the key is to constantly be working on how do we continue to build high quality professional relationships in order to develop those results that you want. If we have any worry about what I'm saying or trying to accomplish a goal, or it's not the one, I don't think that's it. That's why I love that little piece you guys did tonight. We're going to create priorities. The CEO creates the goals with success evidence, and then we decide whether she heard us properly as a corporate entity, because you instruct her as a corporate entity. You know, the team says, this is what I want you to do, you know, and that is so powerful when the team can actually pull that off in their work. So that's what we're after right now. So those are a couple of protocols already in place, but here's what I want you to do. What else did you see me do since I started working with you tonight? Pick up on a couple of the procedures that I used. Get a new partner. What are some of the procedures you've seen me use? Go get somebody you haven't talked to yet. Do your best. It may be hard as we go forward.
Oh, get in here.
Who didn't get Adam?
Paul's
I didn't know that.
Anne Marie, you and Paul.
You're good enough. Let's make it happen. What did you see me do so far? Pick up one or two or three processes you've seen me use so far. Something very tactical. I'm ready. I mentioned that color, I got tied up with the hospital. Okay. She did what up? Yes. 10 more seconds. And like before, if you saw 2 or 3, just give me one. Just give me one. What's one you noticed?
Everything you said was good. John commented on body language, purposeful.
Intentional and very much, so this is all about it. Adults love to be invited, they don't like to be shoved around. So if you're doing anything that feels like shoving, we're in like a funny spot, you know? And so the more you can invite people into conversation, the stronger you get. It actually causes some interesting subconscious responses if I feel like I'm being shoved around. I'm not playing, you know? One of my issues with the hospitals that I work with is sometimes one of the people in the room with the physician in during surgery sees something. We haven't built that relationship. I mean, we got countless examples of when this messes you up. Great catch, Scott. Which one you notice?
The fact that you don't allow us to get into a comfort zone, so we can't hang out with our buddy, we have to keep moving around.
One of the conditions for adult learning is to be mildly uncomfortable, not tremendously uncomfortable. The reason why that matters is the literature is really clear on this. You sit in your knowing. The only way you can actually expand that noodle is to feel a little bit uncomfortable. Then we need safe space, and we need, you know, open conversation, we need a couple of other things, but one of the conditions for an adult to really not sit in what they already know is that space. Give some space to that by making you mildly uncomfortable. Great catch. How about you guys?
You ask a lot of questions.
This is more than a little catch. This is a big catch. This is about using disciplined inquiry to move forward. It is really, really critical to see that. What's one you guys got?
It's very similar to before, that it was, you need to quickly move, talk, not get comfortable.
Well, you know, I did a storytelling workshop in New Orleans, and the first day they got there was a 3-day workshop, and storytelling is leadership language. So the first day they got there, they were supposed to bring a story. Their stories lasted 5, 7, 10 minutes long. By the time we hit the 3rd day, they had them down to pretty much 90 seconds to 2 minutes. I kept shrinking the amount of time they could have. Succinctness is very, very important in learning to get to the point. But leadership and storytelling are critical. Ladies, what'd you notice?
The accountability to the task.
Yeah, you'll be exhausted when you go home tonight. When I do this stuff, people are they're just so tired at the end of it because the level of engagement is so high. I'm working in Phoenix, I think it was, with some leaders from an insurance company. And they're about 12, about this size, I guess. And after about 45 minutes, this one guy says to me, "I hate this meeting." I said, "What's the matter?" He said, "I brought all this work to do." Which is how they generally saw their meetings. Now, if you've ever been in a faculty room on a Friday afternoon with the principal yakking at the teachers, what are they doing out there? Grading papers and, come on, when is this going to be over? I got to go get that kid, you know. So this sense of engagement is really interesting, and it's exhausting at some level.
We talked about moving us around, people, you know, person to person, and making a stand. You're going to lose some of us soon if you don't let us.
We're actually going to take a quick bio break, then we're going to come back and sit. But when we come back, bring a chair into the circle because we're going to start working on our priorities. Let me check my time. Yeah, I'm running. I got to keep us moving here. So we're going to have a quick bio break. But before we do that, we're going to do something called a checkout. Checkouts are, I just closed the meeting and this is my checkout. So it's real simple. So why don't you guys squeeze into our circles together. What's the best thing about this so far? From your vantage point, what's the best thing and why? And let's say that you start, okay? You're going to say, this is the best thing about this from my vantage point so far, and this is why. She will say the phrase, "I'm out." That means no one will interrupt her until she says that. We rarely get time when we can speak and nobody interrupts us. So here's your shot. So just think about this for just 10 seconds quietly. Best thing about this so far for me is, and why? Space is open. Who'd like to start?
I think the idea where you introduce yourself by saying, "Ask me whatever you'd like to know and I'll give you an answer." Just starts to establish trust right away. I'm out.
Thank you, thank you. Let's go clockwise.
The fact that we're all kind of outside the comfort zone. I think that's great. The fact that it's not comfortable for us, I think, is a real positive. So on that.
That's great. Thank you. Please.
I think best thing is asking us to share something personal. That's very difficult. Professional business is one thing, but asking for us to share something personal was a very interesting approach, and I'm out.
Beautiful, thank you. I liked hearing everybody's personal things, whether it was sports or whatever it was that we wouldn't know. So spent a lot of time already in a few months and didn't know any of that, so I found it interesting. I'm out.
This is I've worked with people, they've been together for years. When I do that activity, they go, I didn't know that about you. It's stunning how we just kind of, we're here, but we don't always really hear each other.
The best thing about this for me is the engagement of everyone. I'm out.
Beautiful. That's interesting, isn't it? And like even now, you're all tuning in to what somebody's saying. And don't be concerned that your minds run away. This is linear, right? It cannot go as quickly as your minds. The neuroscience on this is so clear that I want to get to the prefrontal cortex, not the amygdala, right? And up here, I'm running all over the place. So if you notice you're gone, I invite you to come back. Or stay out there and enjoy the drink. Whatever you choose, okay? But just notice that that happens and no judgment. Come back if you can. I know it's short moments.
I just
Short
walked in a few minutes
moments.
ago,
I'm
but
sorry.
I'll say.
I love it, thank you.
My first impression is this is not anything at all what I expected, and I guess I'm still in.
Love it, thank you.
Quick conversations, but the good dialogue about important topics. I'm out.
Yeah, isn't that interesting how just in a few seconds you can get some good stuff on the table?
The interest and the engagement, I'm out.
Yeah, you guys have just, and I gotta tell you, that's a gratefulness for me. Thank you for working with me like this. Please, ma'am.
For me, it's coming together in a totally different format for this entire board and administration. I'm out.
Yeah, and see the model team for the district is you guys. That's what everybody looks to. How are you guys doing? Because everybody wants to be on teams, everybody wants to get better at teams. Here it is. I mean, that's just, what a great catch, thank you.
Taking the engagement to the next level, I haven't looked at my phone since you
Isn't
started.
that
I'm
something?
out.
Yeah, I have a funny story about that. So I'm working in the Surgeon General's, it's Deputy Surgeon General actually, not the SG. And so I go into the meeting and it's a circle because that's how I work. And he says, okay, see that box up there? Cell phones. Says if there's a threat on world peace, they know where we are. I thought that was hysterical. We're talking about single digit and double digit averages. It's so funny. I just love the guy. It's great at that.
The best thing for me is just everybody being here together and just seeing everybody smile.
Yeah. Isn't it interesting? Are you out? I'm sorry.
I'm out.
Yeah, it's interesting how faces start to change and shift as I begin to know who you are, who are you. Something happens to me here. There's a connectivity that's very deep and useful.
So I like the directed and purposeful informality. I'm out.
So I got 8. Is 10 after okay for a quick coffee and a quick bio break? And I'm going to shoot for 9, but I'm really feeling stressed about that. So I'll do my best to get us to a place by 9 that we have some priorities in play. Thank you so much for what you've done so far. See you in a few minutes. Now bring a chair in when you come back so we can hear sisters and brothers.
My sisters and brothers.
Oh, boy. Sounds like you need a better booking agent.
It's my wife. Would you call home and say, look, this is crazy?
Well, no. The motivation there is completely different and probably well planned.
And she is a Native American and she practices the culture. So I would be nervous about, am I being smoked when I get home? What's going on here?
All right. So she's
great.
purposely got you all over the country.
Yeah. I should ask her about that. You would love her. I gotta get her up here to meet the clients. They all talk to her on the phone and they never get to see her.
Bless you.
I gotta try and get her to come hang out.
Thank you.
All right?
Yes. I need another one, but.
So how often do you guys meet?
Oh, not often enough.
I was actually looking at something a little more. Twice a month, once a month.
Oh, sorry.
How often do you meet?
We once a month formal meeting right, and then we have subcommittee meetings.
Gotcha. Welcome back, brother. So, I know you all have done work like this before. So I'm going to give you 3 guidelines to use as we move forward and talk about our priorities. The first guideline I had alluded to already, and you kind of got stuck doing it when you were doing your one-on-one conversation. But it is to listen for understanding. That's the first one. There's 5, but I'm only going to do 3 tonight. I'll do the others. Should you decide you don't mind the way I comb my hair and you want to work with me, my wife and I make choices about clients we take on. Because they are not one and dones. They're always a deep relationship that lasts. Because this is not about a training where you learn a couple of skills. This is about practice. So make sure you get that. Now, should you say don't come back, I did it. I go away. That's not. But my function is to build a sustainable relationship and then work my way out of it naturally, so that the skill sets, the methods, and protocols are transferred. That is absolutely how we live. We've lived this way for a long time. Listen for understanding. Speak from the heart. Heart, courage. I did this for the Marines in Camp Lejeune. I was working with the Wounded Warrior Program, and they got this back. That's partly why Master Chiefs live, because their job is to speak for the rank and file and to speak their heart. So that's a really big one. The third one, suspend certainty. I always say to people, do you know that or do you think that? There's a big difference. And I want people to be passionate about their feelings and their thinking, and then I want them to be able to suspend it so that we can have a deeper conversation about what it is that's going on. So as you sat next to somebody coming back, what are the 3 things I want you to remember going into this next set? You two, would you two switch chairs so he does not talk to the same person this time? Okay? What are the 3 things I want you to remember for this next conversation? What are the 3 protocols or disciplines? What did you just hear? You ready? 90 seconds. Quick, quick. Tell them.
Well done. Listen.
Excellent demonstration of what happens to us as we're trying to internalize something. Let me invite you back in. What's one you heard? Ladies? Just one. Listen for understanding. And really work on yourself, because as you start to get in, oh, I think that's stupid, yes, whatever, work on yourself. When you begin to go to that space, next time, if there is a next time, I'll show you an interesting protocol called the ladder of inference. Beautiful piece that helps you really notice your thinking, so that as I come to a conclusion, I'm able to really think through that conclusion in a disciplined way. So listen for understanding, absolutely critical. Who's got another one?
Heart.
Which one?
Courage and heart.
Speak from the heart. Do your best to, and notice that means she understands that one because she said it in her own words. When I'm working with teachers about getting student voice in the classroom, helping them recognize when a kid can actually say this concept in their own words, that is a beginning statement of understanding. Really critical. There are a few ways we can tell, but that's really a big one. Thank you. So listen for understanding, speak from the heart. Who's got the third one?
Suspend uncertainty.
Suspend your certainty about what's going on, which is the same as your uncertainty. So it's like, it's a double-edged sword. Suspend certainty. As I begin to get excited about whatever, I want you to be passionate about what you believe in, and then, easy. Suspend, so I can hear other people. Because if I can't, I get stuck. I don't have time to develop this completely, but you've seen this 1,000 times. When somebody tries to be right about something, they actually create for themselves a temporary learning disability. I can't hear that other perspective. It actually, believe it or not, your reticular, subconscious and unconscious reticular activating system blocks out any information that is against my position. We don't even know we're doing it, Because someone said, didn't you see that? Didn't you hear that? No. And so that sense of trying to be correct, right, watch yourselves in that. That way you can kind of lean back a little bit. Phrases that my clients will use over time is, I see it this way. Does anybody see it different? And that's a great place for the boss to play in. When the chairman of the board hears somebody be passionate and say, thank you for that set of comments, I appreciate it. Usually something like, I got you, is this what you meant? Yeah, it's what I mean. Does anybody, language, see this differently? That opens the space to other people's perspectives so dramatically, so quickly. And the chair can, hey, you can all do it. But that really very often falls to the chair when we're beginning to learn how to use these practices. So, any comments, questions, or cries of outrage? All right, now let's get after this. We've only got a few minutes left, and I really want you to get into a conversation that will begin to surface. You know, Ray, if I had my way, this is absolutely, now we know we have academic stuff, and I've read all your stuff. This is a very lovely school district. It had nothing to do with me. It's a lovely school district. You're doing great work with your kids. It's beautiful. You just look at your stuff. I mean, how many advanced placement courses you got, kids going to college, SAT scores, pretty cool, right? This is more like a good to great conversation. We're good. Can we be even better? So with that context in mind, if you had your way, Ray, this is a priority. This is a focus point that I really believe our school district needs to consider. Stand-up conversation with someone you're not sitting next to right now. So go find somebody you're not sitting next to and have a 2-minute conversation. And I want to see what pops up. If you had your way, this is absolutely a big priority. You got Adam, very nice. You guys are together, that was just fine. I could never make it work. You don't need the thousand. I'm going to look for it. One of the things about good practice is so I try to keep enough. Yeah, so and we'll just get rid of it. And eventually get pulled out. That would be so that might be just keep that right or whatever. How are you guys? Good. You got one or two? You guys have one or two? Stand next to your partner. I'm going to sneak in over here and learn from you. So teach me. Give me the one that came up, that this one was really big, and I know the gang's going to be writing this down so that we can continue this conversation. Who's got one they'd like to start with?
We talked about more opportunities for students, more specifically for that middle child, for the child that is not the highest achieving student, and not the special needs child, but the child in the middle.
Does anyone see that differently? Do you feel that's a fair priority focus point?
That was pretty similar to what we were talking about.
Tell us what you guys talked about.
Well, the same thing. I think our eventual goal is to get a child into how they look at it. Either it's the best school they can get into, or the one they want to get into. Whether it's the best school or not, it's their choice. But in order to do that, we have to get the 78 kid up to an 83, so they can move to that next level.
Gotcha.
This 83 kid up to an 88.
Love it.
We're great at the top. We have 80% of our classes above 90.
That's super.
But we need to help in the middle.
I love that. So the kind of the, I translate that into my own noodle to this, and if I'm on page with you, that to enable every student to be socially, emotionally, and academically ready to take the next step they and their family want to take. Is that correct? That's a big deal, and that almost like gets us into a space of not just, because as you know, this is really interesting literature too. I was working in Philadelphia schools not too long ago with all their principals, big group, right? And I wrote a sentence up there. I said, "Is IQ variable?" It was the most interesting conversation that ensued after that. So the question is, do I have a growth mindset or a fixed mindset? That's really what I was using Carol Dweck's work. But what kind of mindset do I really have? And one of the more interesting things in the literature, effort trumps talent. Watch it on every performance field that's out there, and how do we open the door so that those kids can actually perform to the level they choose to. I actually love your priority as it's unfolding. Very beautiful.
Wait, can we
Please.
provoke at this point, or do you just want,
We could be
that
done.
first?
Do you have the same one?
No,
What do you
I can I jump in on the
Jump in.
middle?
Mhm.
Because I have this conversation all the time with staff, so we're talking about the kid in the middle, and then you said 80% of our kids are in the 90s.
Well, I'm guessing.
No, it is, you're kind of
Not too
on,
far
you're
off.
kind of on the
But that
number,
idea.
so I think when we talk about the middle, and again, this is for down the road when we're wordsmithing, who
Our
is
middle
the
is
middle?
the middle.
The middle student has a 90 average, takes one AP class, participates in a sport, like, what's for us who would then administer, who's the middle is, to me, a fascinating
Right.
question.
I think our middle is maybe the 10% or the 15 or 20%, not at the very top. I don't know that I'm really concentrating on the 90 kid. I mean, it would be wonderful to get the 90 kid to 95.
Sure, 95 to 96.
All of that.
growth.
But I think it's almost more important to get the middle really as in the 70s and the 80s,
Just
to push them up.
Is this where you ladies
Yes.
were also?
Absolutely, yes. We were
This is
absolutely
interesting. Now,
in
this
this,
is
yeah.
resonating among all of you right now. Very nice. Does anyone else have something like that?
It's a good question.
Great question.
We talked about raising, I mean, my feeling was to raise we have high standards, but to raise them higher. And also to see if we could empower our teachers to do even more, the ones that have better
I
achieving
love it.
teachers. You know, teachers that are doing extra things that are maybe above and beyond what their job descriptions are or what their contract says. That's altruistically, but
Very sweet. I love that a lot, actually.
But we spoke about just celebrating the successes, and something that I find is that, success breeds success. And so if you are celebrating the work teachers are doing with students and their peers know that it's going to be celebrated, it's almost like you don't want to be the weak link. You want to keep moving, no matter what you teach or what you're doing in the district.
That's a very powerful set of sentences that follows nicely that priority. I'll say there's a systems truism. That's really what I am. I'm a living systems kind of guy, And what you focus on grows. You have to be very careful about what you focus on. In families, school districts, the businesses that I work with, the military, what you focus on grows. How do we make sure that's why this conversation, as fun as it is, and I think you're having a good time with it, is really important, because what you're really doing is saying, these are the areas that we would love, the CEO and executive team, focus on. And what it does for them, they can now talk to everybody in the system about, this is what the voice of the community, because that's who you are. You are the on-site representatives of the voice of the community. You bring that forward, so this is what these folks are saying we care about. And boy, does that change the dialogue inside any system. It's really, really, really good. Thank you, thank you. Something not said.
I don't know if it's not what we said, but something I would like to just add a piece to what Paul said and what Kelly articulated. In order to call that to a reality, the goodness of teachers are doing more, or really celebrating and going a step beyond, what opportunities, I ask us, what opportunities do we have to celebrate teachers and to celebrate what works? Where do we highlight that and recognize that so that it's something that we say, yeah, that's awesome. And then you start to build that culture of, yeah, I want to be that too, I want to be involved in it. I don't know the answer necessarily, or there may be opportunities here or there, but if we're talking as a board or as a school system, how do we do that?
Love it. And I love that you have actually people thinking about media in a way to celebrate the things that are going on in your district. The more people putting information out there about, look at this that's great about our system, look at this, unless you have a kid directly involved in that activity or that classroom, you have a tendency not to really know what's going on. You become almost like myopic about the rest of the system. So that may actually become another priority for you guys. How do we communicate this stuff outbound?
Well, my thought was that, we have very, very involved community.
Yeah.
And to embrace that and engage the community and communicating with those people who have children in the school and and parents who don't have children in the school anymore, and just embrace them and just get the word out to them and just have them involved in our community.
I love
completely.
it. So a priority around making sure that we're able to communicate effectively what's going on so they can embrace the work of the system. And be honest about what we're working on. We have things we're working on. And make sure that people know what those things are and the celebrations that should be in play. That's really cool. I like that a lot. And then I don't think we have time tonight to do this, but some boards will choose that as a board goal. How do we as a board do a better job outbound? Build opportunities for communities to come and talk with us and let them know what it is that you're doing. I really think that's worthy. I don't think I'm not going to do that tonight. I think down the road, that might be a worthwhile chat for us to have. Because I think you need to come up with priorities for the system, and then I love it when a board says, well, we have some goals for ourselves. We have some goals about how we intend to do things like that, connect to our constituents in a consistent, effective manner. Because these meetings are hard to do that, as you know, by design, by state statute. These are meetings held in the public. They're not public meetings. I think you're very wonderful about talking with people that are in your audiences. Keep it up. And that's not the only place to get outbound into the system. So I think that's a great thought down the road. Beautiful stuff, guys. One more.
We kind of were saying what we heard, but there were a couple of little nuances. One was finding a way for the parents who are, I'm going to call them the quiet parent, who just kind of sends the kid off to school, kid comes home, does the homework,
That's
and
me.
is fine. But find those opportunities to help that kid, whether it's additional club opportunities or maybe making them aware of club opportunities. Finding a place where every kid fits and can work.
Yeah. So even the geeky kid, right, that's kind of there but doesn't talk a lot, wants to be noticed. I think it's an important community matters to all children. That's really great. Thank you. Anything not said?
I wonder if that connects with the first. Is that the same,
Feels like it.
the same that student who's not the highest, who said the parents are maybe not as involved as much because they're not being invited as engaged. So it kind of, all those kind of go together. The
feels
strategic
that way.
communication, the middle student, to use the term that I don't like, but I use it because it kind of makes everyone know what we're talking about, but also that quiet family.
So I'm hearing two big priorities emerge, correct? Because you connected that one to the opportunity piece here. So get a new partner and review those two priorities and make sure you are on board. And I don't want to pull that out of you. So find a new partner. What are the two priorities that are emerging and are you on board?
I would just stand still.
Whatever that is beyond
Right.
watches the communication the same as someone who has.
You have to tell us something about him that most people don't know. I wonder what that might be. He's the only one that gets When you're finished, sit with your new best friend. Priorities, your job is to shift words, back as a goal. I'm gonna ask what I think, it's only a few. That way every structure kind of gets you there. So let me just check with them and make sure that they're on board.
That's awesome.
So, let's start. Thanks.
One of the priorities that we've heard is communicating with the public, communicating the message of the board. And as Stephanie had said, and has said many times, how do we communicate that message? Because not many people attend the board meetings, certainly some watch it at home on video, but what's the best way to deliver that message?
That's well said.
And, so I know Stephanie is more than willing to get a newsletter going and work on social media and a board website and things like that, and I think we should do things like that.
Excellent. So this sense, it's definitely a priority, and when we finish making sure you guys are on board with a couple of priorities that I heard, I'm going to ask you, what do you think some success evidence would look like? Okay? How will we know that we're actually doing this well? So we're going to, of course, the CEO and executive team will create that for you, but I'd like to know your thinking before we go away tonight. Let's kind of scoot around the room. How about you guys?
We were back to the student opportunity and what middle needs. And
Interesting.
broadening that to middle in terms of athletics, middle in terms of the academic portion, and finding other opportunities for those who are not excel, not a word I want to use, who are not the high-performing students, and find a way to offer them opportunities and direct. Am I missing?
No, I think that was, we talked a little bit about the student experience, so it's not just the average, it's really the overall student experience, and then the second would be the communication, whether that's website, social media.
And I love your catch on, what the hell is middle? We're so confused about what that really means in the field anymore. So it sounds to me like all kids need some opportunity, right, and some level of encouragement to get there. And that was a very nice shaping of that priority. Gentlemen.
You charged us with two, but we kind of stuck on three. The strategic communication, which we've heard, is student opportunities, but there was that, that parent piece, and maybe it would come with the opportunity for the child, and with the communication, we get the quiet parent as well. Maybe it bridges those two, but it potentially could be another.
It could. And when you get a chance to shape these, that'll give you an opportunity to play them out and see, how do we do this? Is it just us, or are there other people in the house that need to be playing with this particular set of priorities? So I think the structure on how you do it is secondary to clear picture of priority and goal. Then we can figure out what are the hows, and that may give us a third one may actually bump out of it.
I was just going to say, you expanded not just to help the middle kid, but to help the middle parent, whether it's those sort of quiet or uninvolved parent. How do we bring them in to make them involved? Just as you want to bring the kid involved in the classroom, you got to bring the parent involved into the district.
And always being mindful from a kind of cultural piece of what involved means. I almost always miss Meet the Teacher night at my son's or daughter's school because
you're here.
It's the Mondays. And that's well respected. If I miss the same Meet the Teacher night because I had a different type of job, would that be as respected? So aware of what involvement means.
We need to understand why they're not here.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, the more you talk about this, the more this becomes more
I think
powerful.
that's gonna assist
Yeah.
success measure.
I agree. I think it's a success.
Whether I come
evidence.
to parent, teacher, and meet the teacher, and I value, do or don't value education, and what are our success
I
measures?
love it, love it, love it, love it. Thank you, thank you, thank you for clarifying that more. First, tell us what's the thing about him nobody knows. Within reason, I'm hoping. Okay. Don't scam me.
Paul
That's smart.
swims several times a week. And
He what?
He swims.
I swim laps.
Do
He
you
swims
really?
laps several times a week.
I'm not a pretty sight to be.
I'm not going to any level of judgment, my brother. I was just thinking how cool that is that you're swimming. Thank you so much, I appreciate that. And how did you guys do on the priorities? Are you feeling comfy?
We also talked about opportunities, but we also talked about the teachers and standards and celebrating what they have done, the positive that they do to bring other teachers into the fold and to have them do
Sweet.
more. And our teachers do more already. I know that they have opportunities where they come in and they'll do, not all teachers do the Google Classroom. That's an initiative that the teachers coming out and doing that, so we recognize that.
At some level, you guys fall into the same kind of, this is Ray's categorical data. School boards, exec teams, teachers, administrators, they don't look to celebrate. They hit a goal, they move on. And I'm always inviting teams that I work with, when you hit that goal, decide how you're going to celebrate. I don't care what it is. You know, scotch, bourbon, I don't care, whatever. But something, have a gathering, get people together. The celebrations are really critical because they give you momentum moving forward. And people's effort needs to be seen in those environments. That's really sweet. Thank you, thank you.
Ice cream.
Ice cream is a good thing, yes. I think we could find that.
My kryptonite.
This is excellent. Anything to add? Okay, so I think you've got a couple of things. Let me kind of ask the CEO to read back what she has. I need you to go yay or not quite so that she hears. We're not writing goals, we're verifying these are the priorities you have demonstrated in this room.
So a priority for the Board of Education is effective communication to the entire community, to communicate what is the message of the Board of Education. We can do that through social media, the board website, in a variety of different ways. We want to remain focused, as always, on student opportunity for all students, the experience, K-12, really have a deep understanding of what does the middle mean for Half Hollow Hills students. What is the evidence of success for the middle students, for all students, and to make sure that we don't forget about parent opportunity and parent involvement in educational experience for students.
Pretty good.
It feels good to me. Now here's a place I'm going to just coach gently, that if I say that's a priority, success evidence isn't a set of processes. So if I want my parents informed, I need to go into the community and say, do you guys know what's going on? Either with a little focus group, a survey, or you got thousands of surveys you can do that are easy, just to find out, you know, what's the level, how do I feel as a community, do I know what's going on? So a process is a method. It's not necessary, it should generate the evidence that we got to that priority. With me? So as you come back and chat, I want to make sure that that's clear. This is something we're doing to generate the evidence that we hit this priority. So I think you should expect that when you come back together as a board to hear the goals with the success evidence. Now what they do to get there, that can be varied. I think it has to do with what resources are available to you as a community, as a school district. That I think would be interesting to find out. You had that look.
Yeah, sorry, you've played this game with me before. I thought there was a nice build where we started around student opportunity and it transitioned at some point to a student experience. I feel like I'm nitpicking, but at the same time, the opportunity means it was there, and maybe Eric took it and Betty took it, but I didn't. So the fact that I had an opportunity isn't as important as I think John and took it to the student experience.
The engagement in the opportunity is more what you want, not just here you go. Right? I mean, I get that people get to choose. I know that.
27 AP classes, I didn't take any of them, but the opportunity
Yeah,
was there.
that's right. That's right. So I think that's an interesting distinction that'll come back in the goal. So in the success evidence, I think the opportunity is important. What's our level of engagement in that opportunity? That's really critical. Thank you.
So, my question, if we look as a district to have goals to expand, raise our standards, to, not be satisfied with, celebrate our successes, but to not be stagnant. The question is that I ask really for the administration is, how can we empower, we have contractual relationships with our teachers, which really, our teachers are teaching our children, and our parents should be parenting. So what can we do as a better job to raise those standards of parenting and raise those standards of teaching, where you have teachers who do go above and beyond, who do certain things that maybe others don't, and how can we foster that better? Unfortunately, I come from a background where in high school I went to a boarding school, so I know more of an intimate type of educational process where you would go to obviously we're not going to have our kids go to parents' homes, teachers' homes at night, but that's how we would study. We would, a group of us would go to our biology teacher's house at night, and we had questions, and then it was a totally different process. And it was in the 80s, so a long time ago. But just what can we do to not stagnate? And and also in the process where we have contractual relationships and people have other lives, and so that's.
I think that's something that, and we started to do this last year with a focus group of administrators that I worked with, is it had it be administrator teacher generated. So at the elementary level, we presented to the board for the opportunity to extend the school day for some children that needed
Right.
the study group, that needed, and we did in fact develop that program, and this is the pilot. And, I think that's, the buy-in has to be from the teacher, from the administrator, for the program to take off. And for me, it's allowing the teachers and the administrators to think outside of that box. What is it that the kids need? If you develop a plan, and we think it's going to absolutely, be effective in terms of the student's education, we're going to go to the Board of Education and present that to, for the opportunity to fund it, for it to be in the budget. And then they own it, and they want to develop it, and they want to be part of it. So I think at all different levels, Paul, like you're saying, we had it this year at the, at the elementary level. Even the professional development that we have in place, yesterday was social studies. We had the social studies teachers here from the high school, and we spoke with Mrs. Lipinski today. That was generated, that opportunity for the dialogue of what's happening in each of the courses, and for there to be a deep understanding. We have to make sure that it happens for teachers and it happens for kids. And it's moving away from what is the norm.
Yes? Did she get you?
Yeah, I think we're on the similar page. I think it's really asking people to do more, and that's tricky.
It is tricky.
Because, more oftentimes it takes more time, and, time is not always 28-hour days.
I think there's a connection between the goals to celebrate and to share amongst teachers, to say, I could do that too. And then it's not the district compelling, it's teachers kind of coming around and saying, yeah, that Google Classroom looks great. I'm not familiar with it, but I'm going to try it. That's a slow process. It's slower than district comes up with a rule that everybody uses Google Classroom. But I think it's probably when dealing with teachers as professionals, they went into this profession because they are a certain type of person. I think that addresses it a little bit more. So maybe that goes into the celebration. I don't know.
You want a sustainable growth towards those best practices, so that it's not just an anomaly, that actually this becomes systemic, that we're moving towards these best practices that are being demonstrated by what I heard, some of the people. I don't know what some is, but some. So that's a great catch, good movement. What you want to add?
I I do. I'm just speaking in response to what Paul said regarding getting teachers to kind of, do more, be more, and what John and Kelly both alluded to. I think it's, as administrators, you asked about asking administration, how can we make this happen? And one thing I think is what Kelly has provided an opportunity for us to have a conversation with teachers to make something come alive. So I think as administrators, we need to maybe focus a little more on creating opportunities for teachers' voices to be heard about what do they see will move things forward in the program. How can they, take a creative idea, get a spark, and have it move forward with support of the board? It might require some funding or not, but I think the opportunity for that to happen, because we've got to create that condition for that to happen. Otherwise, how do our teachers then become teacher leaders or teacher role models? And so create some opportunity.
It's a beautiful, sustainable practice, and one that can become part of the system. What's lovely is when the board says this matters, it is absolutely marching orders for the CEO and the administrative team. Beautiful thing. Gives people real direction and real focus, so very nicely said.
And, I just wanted to piggyback on this whole concept of success. There is so much success in this district that I think people take that success for granted. And, the communication piece will really help us have people understand how special we are. When both high schools are in the top 2% in the country, and it's public education, there are private schools that are ranked ahead of us. I mean, that's absolutely tremendous. So, things like that really need to be sung from the mountaintops, because there are those teachers that are doing tremendous work. There are those administrators doing tremendous work. None of that happens by accident. It all happens through the hard work.
None of what I'm about to say is intended to be critical of anyone in this circle, because I genuinely am appreciative of what everyone has done and does. But what I think, in my opinion, what the biggest obstacle facing teachers right now to accomplishing what we're saying is what our government has put on them, and the restrictions that have been put on them, and the goals that have been put in place, and the requirements that are put on them, and we're taking a lot of the creativity out of the classroom, and it's not the teacher's fault. So from what I read and from who I speak to, people say, why would I even want to be a teacher at this point? I'm not saying I hear that in our district, but we're all probably reading the same articles.
Great catch.
I don't know how we can accomplish these goals without doing whatever we can to fight back on these issues. Personally, asked the commissioner after her speech when we all attended, 5 of us attended the convention, and I said, I am a parent, I'm an attorney, I'm a board member, I need your help. And she said, sure, what's your question? And I said, I opted out my kids, I'm going to opt them out again, and I tell anyone that I meet, I think that's the right decision for me. Am I going to get in trouble with you? And she said, no, you can't. She said, did you request a waiver? And I said, yes, we did. And she said, absolutely not. And I said, the next question is, are we going to lose funding? And if someone is vocal. And again, I'm not trying to project my view and say this is the entire board's view. And she said, no, how could that happen? And I said, are you talking about this year or forever? And she laughed, and she said, of course, I can only talk about now. So I don't know what the future holds for it, and I'd love to know where everyone stands on these issues, and I'm not trying to put anyone on the spot. I'd rather have this dialogue at some point in the future. Perhaps it's not the best time now. But I don't see how that's not the #1 issue that we have to tackle as a board, and I just don't want to stay silent.
And can you clarify the issue, because
Sure.
let me.
Sure, please.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you talked about what I assume is the APPR for teachers.
It's all of it.
No, but it is and it isn't. I'm just trying to understand.
Sure.
So there's the opt-out piece, that's a parent piece, not a teacher, because that has to do with the assessment. So if you're connecting that's you know, I don't know what individual, I hear many reasons why folks decide to opt out. Full disclosure, I have a son who's in public school, 6th grade, he's taking the test in 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, he will take it again this year. No judgment either way.
I agree.
So, you know, why folks choose or not choose that. Then there's the teacher piece, and then there's the waiver piece, which is complete as a district, not as a parent. And then there's a funding piece, then, and I'm just trying to understand the question to the commissioner, will we lose funding if we're vocal? Like you know, there is funding tied, as the statute is currently written.
Of course.
Moving target, of course, as it has been. There is funding tied to the eventual approval of an APPR plan, which is separate and apart from any idea of a percentage of students who participate in New York State testing. So I'm just trying to understand what the goal is. It a goal that is would be a legislative priority? Would it that the board takes in one direction? Is it?
I think it's everything. In my opinion, I'm not saying it's the entire board, of course. But yeah, I think from the legislative angle, I think from educating public, bringing in people to speak on both sides, and I'm talking about Common Core as well as opt-in, and field testing and park and all these things that have been implemented now. A lot of our leaders are saying, oh, this was done wrong, or this was bad, we're going to do this instead. And it's a lot of what the critics have been saying for a couple of years now. So I think the number was 48% of our parents opted out in this district last year, which tells me I'm not in the majority, you know, but I'm not really in the minority. It's pretty close.
Pretty close.
So there's a dialogue, I think, that needs to be held. I went to something at the library for the election, and it was Lori put it on, and there was mostly people saying opt out, and you know, Common Core is bad. But there were a few brave parents that said, I don't know the information. You know, they were asking questions, and it made me think most people don't know. And I'm not saying they don't know what I believe. They just have questions. And the questions that I heard at that library was making me say, I want to be on board even more because I want to get this information out there. I don't know what the best way is to do it, but to me, and one of these guys, and I'm not trying to hijack this meeting, I'm sorry, one of the guys that was asking the questions, and he was trying to sort of fight back, I think, and show there were two sides of the story. I was at a basketball game 2 weeks later, election season had started, and he came up to me and said, I read this great article, and he started asking me all these questions about it and saying he found statistics from all these countries. I think our community would want to have a debate on that. So, I don't know, Patrick, I'm trying to answer your question.
No, I don't know if there's answers.
Well, actually, this helped me do something that I haven't given to, you've seen this, but I haven't done this with you. So let's say the desired future state is whatever it is, right? In the systems world, there are things that enhance that state, and there are things that will limit that state. I think confusion about where I stand, or where the system stands, or what is the impact of these different elements that are in your state and federal legislation, could be both a limiting factor and an enhancing factor. I don't know, but I think when you create a goal, that's a great time. That's where I thought you were going. If we have a goal, then we need to be able to talk honestly about what will enable the goal and what might sidetrack it. So in a system, nothing's always perfect. There's no perfect set of enhancing or positive influencing factors. There's always going to be something on the side. So this is just a great opportunity to kind of talk about that. I create the goal. I talk about what it is that will enable us, what might sidetrack us or slow us down. And that's just a great chance to set it on the table as a possibility. And I agree, this is not a place to discuss, you know, do I love Common Core and George Bush, and that's not the place, you know. But the question of political influence is important to you guys as board members. You need an opportunity to check about it. So that actually could be a workshop you guys could craft.
If I may. So I'm just trying to understand where you're going. You want us to educate the community about what we as a board, and just hear me out, as a board, we have to follow, we have to abide by regulations. So I'm just trying to understand. So we're gonna educate the community about APPR, the Common Core. What is it and why are we bringing them together? To explain to them what each piece means?
I think.
And why would we debate? What are we debating?
I'm using the word debate, and that sort of implies that there's two sides butting heads. I'm more envisioning leaders, and I don't know if they're community leaders or people we bring in from the outside, but to answer the questions that parents have. I have the youngest of the kids of the board members here, and they're the ones that are in the heart of, you know, the issues right now. And it's not to say that the older kids never had struggles, never took tests, but I think things have changed drastically. So what am I saying? I think answering questions, people are going to make up their own minds what to do. You know? But I don't think that we're communicating our position as a board if we have one. I mean, we do have a position on the APPR. We've sought a waiver. We do have a position on field testing. You know, so I do think there are some stances that we as a board can take, have taken, but I don't know who knows it. And maybe no one would care.
So that sounds a lot more communication stuff, doesn't it? Like, if we have a stance, do they know?
But if this is a like I think Patrick said, and I think Betty, you were saying the same thing. What do we do with it? If we all had the same vision, no matter what it is, and we say, okay, well, this is a legislative issue. So, Steph, get to it. It's your committee. Do something. Bring it back to us. But I legitimately don't know where everyone stands on it. And bringing it up in the new business section of a meeting, I don't know if that's the right place for it. So I don't know where it fits. I don't know how we do it.
Sounds more like it's its own meeting.
Well, he sounds like this happens to me with public boards everywhere. This sounds like an item that needs presentation and workshop, so you can actually have a conversation about what's really out there, what's going on. But I think it fits your goal perfectly. It's a communications issue. What is our stance and what are we trying to communicate? And what's the community thinking? So that way it's almost like a loop, you know? It's kind of where we are, what do you guys think? So building that capacity, I think, would be useful. Sounds like it's all part of that priority.
The connection here, or the problem is, from one side, you know, we have a rule of law we have to follow. So we can disagree with it, and I think this is sort of what we're asking, you know, we can disagree with it, and the question is, what do we do about it? What you're asking makes sense. If we have a position that we do disagree with it, we want the public to know we disagree with it. And even though we disagree with it, we have to
absolutely
provide the tests, we have to, you know, give the tests, you know, we've done what we can to, you know, there are gonna, like you said, there's people opting out. My biggest problem, and maybe this is the whole education part, I ask a lot of people, why drop your kids out? And a lot of what I'm hearing as an answer is, and this goes to what you're saying, a lot of what I'm hearing is, well, because my neighbor told me to. And so 48%, maybe 10% of the people made that decision with knowledge and information about the test, about how the APPR fits the test, how the Common Core fits into that, and how they, you know, mix together. But it would have been nicer for them to give me 3 or 4 reasons about the test itself, or the Common Core. Not that, well, I was told to do that. I don't really know why I did it.
I think we've got people on both sides looking for answers, and who do they go to? A lot of people, I just know from my own house, people go to my wife. She taught, she knows a lot about education, she's in this building more than most of us, not all of us though. And, you know, people say, all right, I respect your opinion, you read a lot more on this than I do, what do I do? So I agree with you. I agree with you 100%.
Now this is really, I want to say something about the process you guys just employed. Beautiful. You said, I don't know if you all see it this way, I see it this way, this is my opinion. And query, I love what you just did in terms of resolving for yourself what's going on here. This is an example of suspension, which can actually happen beautifully in your conversations when you workshop an item. But you need to have that opportunity to present something to you as a team, let you chew on it, let you converse about it, because this is I want to reveal this right now. This work I do about conversation is called conversational leadership. Conversation is the natural way we learn. It's not the only way, but it's the natural way we learn. And all too often we never get that opportunity. Or we feel like we're stepping on someone's toe. So we want to become very disciplined in holding a conversation about something hard, so that the different perspectives and the queries can unfold. So people are really feeling good about what's there. I think you did that beautifully, by the way. that sense of query and suspension actually occurred in your conversation. So I would not want to push this thing any further until you have a chance to say, we really do need to workshop this, you know, and then find out where you guys really sit on this, if there is some place to go. So, really, very nice, very nice, very nice. I can't tell you how impressed I am with the way you worked together tonight. Very, very impressive. Anything for the good of the group. I'm coming to the witching hour.
I felt like you wanted to say something.
Well, I just wanted to ask a question, for clarification. So if we talk about communication and we want to make sure that parents, the community understand, as the superintendent, I think that it's important that we break it down so that, there's an understanding that the standards and assessments and APPR are different things. And I also believe that, today we put up on the website the commissioner's survey. We have done things as a district in terms of outreach to, to try to say it's a parent's choice. We have never taken off of the website the procedures if your choice is to not participate in the testing. But we have absolutely believed in always having a strong curriculum when we have Hollow Hills. And we have developed a curriculum through the years that whether they were the New York State standards or the Common Core standards to address standards. Do you address and agree with every single standard? There are a lot of standards there, pages. Has always been an education conversation about where specific standards were placed. But part of the conversation also has to be, in standards, do you want there to be rigor for students? Or do you want standards to be developed that just all students can achieve? And that's okay. So there are a lot of different conversations that I think it's not just one that I would want to say. And it would be important for me to say, let's engage those types of conversations in a productive manner, such as this. This to me is extremely productive as opposed to someone just being completely, opposed or for and not being able to listen and to just say, okay, let's come together and find a common ground on how to manage a difficult time in education, and that's what I've always said.
It is. That was beautiful. Thank you. So this sense of building capacity for us to hold this conversation is what we're really after. Final
I just
thoughts?
say one thing that I think I made my position pretty clear on what I think on these, but I am willing to listen, have been listening to each of you, if anyone has things to say. Diana, you said at the convention the other day, we were having a little discussion, and you said something that struck me about it being raw at this point for my kid's age, and something I've been thinking about a lot. So I just only bring it up just because, I was going to bring it up in a less formal setting than this, but I am listening. So it's not that I have my beliefs and I think you guys are wrong or you guys are right. I just want to have dialogue and see if there's anything we can do.
I don't know that you disagree with anybody here.
And that's why I just said,
and just another piece of that is that you
100%.
specifically said something about your kids and your kids' ages. At a certain point in time, let's say, I don't know that it matters in 3rd grade, 4th grade, and 5th grade, no offense to the elementary, but if you're a 7th grade kid and you haven't taken any of these tests yet, and then you're going to take a test in 8th grade that could potentially count on your high school transcript, and you have no training in these tests, at some point you have to sit for some of these tests.
I'm not advocating we don't take tests.
No, I know.
And I got a 7th grader, I know exactly what you're saying.
In terms of the opting out,
But
it's whether you do this in 3rd grade and 4th grade, but at some point, your 8th grader, your 9th grader, your 10th and your 12th, they have to take these tests to want to go to college.
My only thought with the test is give the test, but now we're using our entire classroom to teach towards the test, and that's where I'm concerned about. But I'm not pigeonholing you.
I think the room is actually in the same place. Okay,
Absolutely in the same place,
that's
and that's something that and I don't want to speak for anyone in the circle, a teacher's evaluation should not be tied to tests, to assessments that students take. And that is what has concerned teachers. And for me, it saddens me, but I understand when teachers feel that the creativity piece is lost because they feel as though the test prep piece has to be at the forefront. I understand that it's unfortunate, but I have personally communicated that is something that should not be in place. Unfortunately, we know too that the Commissioner of Education has said that's not something I can do. I can promise you that I'm going to be able to change. My hope is that she's going to have some influence with the governor and make the changes that need to happen.
But what you can do as a leader is respond in that way. We had a teacher who all of our measures were strong. The growth scores that came from New York State this particular year at this particular snapshot in time was not. You met with that teacher individually in your office, reassured that teacher, and the teacher left saying, everyone has said that, Kelly, but you don't know how important it is to me just hearing it from you. That is what, as administrators, that is what we really seek to control. We do seek to control what we can. So how do we treat a teacher when they land in that unfortunate spot? We treat them with a lot of dignity. We treat them with a lot of respect. We talk about, well, what's the best way to get through this and sit face to face with them at the highest level in the school district and say, what's important is what you're doing in the classroom. Keep doing what you're doing. So, and I don't know. And again, we talked earlier today. Does everybody know what everybody's doing? So there are superintendents who might be quoted in Newsday making certain statements. I hope they are just as compassionate sitting with their individual teachers to really make that teacher feel better. To me, it's not about soundbite. It's how does our leader treat those folks?
That's a great anecdote and maybe a good one to end our evening on. And let me just tell you, we have only scratched the surface. If you choose to get in this water and swim with me, there are a few more disciplines and a few more protocols that when you internalize them, they just stay with you. And they actually transfer. I must tell you, my wife will tell you, my wife is president of the company, so imagine what that's like. Anyway, she tells me she gets more notes from the people that I work with about how they use this stuff at home. Simple things like, so what did you hear me say? That sounds almost like, boy, wasn't I? What did you hear me say and what did it mean to you? It's a powerful sentence. You say that to young people and they go, oh, I heard this. Is that what you meant? No. Interesting, right? Truckloads of those little anecdotes and stories have been coming to us. I'm very, very, very grateful for being here tonight. Let's do a checkout. I can't tell you how grateful and very, very, very humbled by the way you guys talk to one another with very little push into the field about how to use these things. You did
Can I
beautifully.
interrupt for 1 second?
Oh yeah, of course.
Only because we had to we had a lot has happened since we originally
Yes.
were going to schedule this date. But I wanted to just remind the board, the administrators are doing this work with us also. So we have Leadership Council and we meet every other month and several times this year we are doing similar work. So we had our retreat in August and we've had one additional session. And to hear their dialogue in terms of the productivity of their department meetings and their faculty meetings and getting everyone to hear the same message, to have the same expectation, has been great. For me, having Ray with the board was an important part of the overall umbrella, so that all of the leaders in the district are familiar with how the district is moving forward and how do we productively work together.
That's great. This is a communications infrastructure. It is something that runs under the surface. It's like the plumbing. You just use it all the time. And that is a great statement to make sure that the rest of the gang and leadership are working on the same thing. So, very nice. Anything else for the good of the order? So let's check out this way. Go stand next to someone you're not sitting next to, and I'd like you to answer this question. What resonated most with you tonight in this conversation, and why? What resonated most and why? So go get a partner you're not sitting next to. How about a 2-minute stand-up conversation? What resonated most and why?
Don't look at those things. They don't like no SAT.
10 seconds.
10 seconds.
Temporary timeout. Everybody good? Mission control back to the chairman. You have the room, sir.
Okay, you know, to me, the thing that I took away from this evening is that we all come from very different paradigms, very different thought processes, very different ways that we handle stuff. But it was a really positive experience in celebrating those differences and understanding those differences. I think that, you know, as a board, that's what makes a board better. If we were all the same and we all had the same perspective and paradigm, then we'd be a pretty boring group. And the difference is really where the strength lies. So personally, I think that, you know, we can disagree, we can agree, and we should do neither disagreeably. And if we can agree or disagree and just keep working together like this, I think we have a really bright future as a board, and our kids have a bright future for the things that we want for our kids.
Thank you, sir. And we are out for the night unless somebody has something else they want to say. It was great. I do hope you avail yourselves of the services. I really love meeting you and working with you. It was a lot of fun. Good night, Janice. Go home safe, okay? Be careful out there. It still got Wall Street Blues.
Right.
I'm on about my 16th hour.